Come on, Annie. Let's go to the movies.
This is the Cinereelists, episode 678. My name is Kyle.
My name is James.
And my name is Zach.
And we're here to talk movies, movie lists, and movie obsession for the next hour or so. Guys, we're doing a twofer this week. And man, we chose some two violent movies to pair together.
We did.
Noticing that. I'm like, wow, there's a theme between these two.
Yeah,
Yes.
We haven't done a real violent movie in a while, and for some reason we did too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was watching Sinners today in the theater, and I'd seen Havoc the other night. I was like, man, like how much blood is being covered on this episode of the podcast? is this maybe our bloodiest episode?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which one was more violent?
I would say Havoc was more gratuitous.
I'd say Havoc was more violent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like if you're talking screen time of violence, Havoc for sure
Okay.
compared to Sinners. We'll get into it
Yeah.
as far as percentages go, but a little more to Sinners than I think there is to Havoc to chew on. That's not
okay.
just violence.
Oh,
Interesting.
you're saying Havoc was in a deep movie?
I mean, I don't know if Sinners is a particularly deep movie either, but it's at least deeper.
Yeah, no, I would say Sinners is maybe not a deep movie, but it's
Right.
definitely got themes, plural.
It does. It does for sure. Yeah. So we're going to talk Sinners. We're going to talk Havoc, and we're going to talk our top 10 movies in which an actor plays multiple roles. Actually, in looking at our lists, or my list rather, I think I might have to change the title too. We'll get to it when we get to it.
Okay. I'm standing by my title,
All right. Fair enough.
flaws and all.
Yep. Welcome to the podcast, episode 678, as Kyle mentioned. We're going to jump right into it because there is a lot to do. 2 main event movies and a full list. Before we jump into all of that, don't forget there's a video version of this podcast on YouTube. Go check it out if you're not doing so already. Search Cinereelists and find us there. Subscribe and watch while you listen. You could also support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Cinereelists. You could leave us an Apple Podcast review, 5 stars only. We'd appreciate that. Or send us a listener email to heyguys@cinereelists.com, REEL with an S on the end. Links are in the description to do any and all of those things. We appreciate it. You guys ready to get into Sinners?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Sinners, it's in theaters now. We're going to talk about it right after this clip.
What y'all doing? Just step aside and let me on in now.
Why you need him to do that? You big and strong enough to push past us?
Well, that wouldn't be too polite now, would it, Miss Annie? I don't know why I'm talking to you anyway. Smoke.
Don't talk to him. You talking to me right now. Why you can't just walk your big ass up in here without an invite, huh? Go ahead. Admit to it.
Admit to what?
That you dead.
So you listening to this? Now we out here playing games, telling ghost stories in place of doing what we ought to do.
That was Sinners, a 2025 American horror film written, co-produced, and directed by Ryan Coogler, and starring Michael B. Jordan, Haley Steinfeld, Miles Catton, Jack O'Connell, Wunmi Masaku, Jamie Lawson, Omar Miller, and Delroy Lindo, amongst others. The official IMDb plot synopsis for Sinners is: trying to leave their troubled lives behind, twin brothers return to their hometown to start again, only to discover that an even greater evil is waiting to welcome them back. What'd you guys think of Sinners? And before you tell me, just for the listeners, we're going to do a very small amount of spoiler-free discussion on this movie, and then we're going to go right into spoilers because one, the movie's been out for almost 2 weeks now, or at least 2 weekends, and two, there's just a lot to talk about with this movie. And I think we can get through general thoughts pretty fast and dive into the details. So what do you guys think of Sinners? Sounds like you guys saw it more recently than I have.
Yeah, I saw it this afternoon. Zach, when did you see it?
Yesterday.
Okay, I'll go then. I'm most recent.
Okay.
Then Zach, you can hop in next. I enjoyed this movie. I did not know a ton about it. I knew it was Michael B. Jordan, Ryan Coogler. Michael B. Jordan plays two characters. I think that's pretty clear. I did know some other things that we're not going to spoil about, which I kind of wish I had not known, because when this movie starts, it's about one thing. It's about these brothers. They're back. They want to put on a concert. It takes place in 1930s Mississippi. What?
A concert.
They want to open a juke joint.
Open a jukebox, whatever.
A jukebox.
Juke bar. And yeah, it starts off as this movie about black men in Jim Crow trying to live authentically and have a life within this realm. And then it goes somewhere completely different. And I think that's thematically relevant. I'm not quite sure exactly how it lays out yet. I probably need to read something about it. But I liked it. I liked where it went. I thought it was interesting, even though it was like, oh, we're doing this now. Performance-wise, Michael B. Jordan was great. I also liked Michael B. Jordan in this movie. He was also good. Delroy Lindo was always a pleasure to see in a movie, and I haven't seen him in something in a while and see him pop up. At first, I thought he was gonna, not a cameo. I thought he was gonna have a small role, and he's got a pretty major part of the story. I was happy to see him, and yeah, I just thought it was a well shot. It was a beautiful movie. I did find it lighting wise, or maybe this is my projection, dark. Like not thematically dark. It is that, but just visually dark at times. A lot of it takes place at night. There's a lot of shadows. I don't know if you guys had the same experience, but there's times where I was like, could this just be a hair brighter?
That might have been your projection, because I never had that issue, and sometimes I am sensitive to that.
Okay, that's that. Yeah, like there was times. A lot of this movie is sort of backlit or top lit, but there'd be times where I couldn't see actors' eyes just because like shadows, and I was like, I feel like this is underlit right now, but maybe it was just my theater.
I didn't have an issue in mine.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give Greg Marcus a call and say, hey, I want my $10.57 back.
Well, I'll give my quick thoughts on the film. I didn't know exactly what this movie was going to be, but I knew it was going to be something. So I had that in my mind as I'm watching it. I was surprised at how much of the movie was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed the world building of this world. I liked following around these characters and seeing a little bit of all their like relationships and stuff like that. It did give you a little sense that like you're eavesdropping on like a conversation that you're not a part of, you know? Like you're getting to see this juke joint go up and all the machinations behind it when like you wouldn't be allowed at the party. You're like, you know, you're not involved in the party, which is cool. It was great to like see all that play out. And then yeah, I mean the movie certainly goes places, I think you could say. And I have not fully sussed out what the meaning of the movie is, or like what I should understand or take away, or the deeper stuff. But I kind of feel like that it is there.
Yeah. And
it's just on me to like, you know, figure it out. And in the meantime, I enjoyed the ride. And so I enjoyed the process. Without fully understanding what the deeper meaning I was supposed to garner was, that can be off-putting in some movies, but this one I was enjoying what I'm seeing enough that it didn't lose me. I was happy to take some twists and turns. I did like the acting quite a bit. If I were to say any criticism about the movie that kind of bothered me over and over, is just that Michael B. Jordan is so jacked that like it's just a little distracting / out of place. Like he's just a little too solid muscle. You know what I mean?
a little too handsome for the movie.
A little bit.
Like back in the
yeah.
1930s, like normal people weren't that jacked. Like
Not
people
like
walking around,
Creed
right?
jacked. Yeah,
Yeah, right. He was in boxing shape in this movie.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that felt a little bit out of place, and sometimes it was distracting. But other than that, I mean, he was a good actor. All the performances were really great.
Right.
My standout was Cornbread. I thought Cornbread was a great character.
Oh, the doorman.
Yeah, the doorman.
Yes.
Yeah. So this movie gets my thumbs up.
Yeah, Zach, you put out something interesting that I want to highlight. The first hour of this movie is a procedural, like getting the gang back together to open this juke joint, and and like that's fun. And then it goes somewhere completely different. But yeah, I like seeing that. Let's get everyone in. Let's try and do this thing as a group.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. I'm gonna mirror y'all's comments for the most part. I fully expected what this movie was going to do plot wise, but a lot of the theme wise was where the discovery was for me. Like you guys, I'm not sure I fully understand all the themes or have taken it in and processed it all. But the ones that were there at the surface, I got on first watch, and in thinking about it more and listening to other people talk about it, I think I have a relative handle on some of the other themes or how they might be presented in the movie. I also find that I really want to go into spoilers. Trying to think of whether this is a spoiler or not, so I won't say it.
It probably is.
It's a very well acted movie with a great cast, and it not everything in the movie is original, I would say. It's a spin on things that have come before it, but it's a spin by a person and a director and a cast that we wouldn't have if we didn't have like diverse voices in film. I would say. Like the chances of this movie being made in the way that it was made with somebody other than a black director behind the lens, I think is pretty slim. And it follows in the footsteps of other movies that share a genre with what this shares, I guess. I don't know. Again, I'm trying to be spoiler free. And I kind of like that that genre that I'm not specifying has become kind of a shorthand for message movies that are entertaining, right? That are not, that don't feel preachy, that feel grounded in some kind of reality. And in that way, they're very effective at getting their message across, even if it takes a little while for it to fully sink in. If it was just a message movie with bad acting, it wouldn't work. It's the combination of all of them. I think it really came together for this movie. And that's what I was the most impressed with. Even the music is like kind of crazily perfect for what they made.
Do you know who was playing drums on the soundtrack?
I do not.
Lars Ulrich.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
Okay. He's become a session musician now?
Well, I was reading Ryan Coogler likened this song to the Metallica song. Sorry, like this movie to the Metallica song One. And for people who aren't familiar with One, it starts off very calm. It's sort of like it's picked guitar, and then it's lyrical, and then it gets a little heavier. And as the song progresses, it becomes bigger and more epic. And by the end, it has like this thrashy, fast-paced conclusion to it. And Coogler was saying, like, I was trying to take the energy of the song One and make it into this movie of like, we're going to kind of start a little melodic, and we're going to kind of keep cranking it up. And then by the very end, we're like at this machine gun intense ending.
All right.
And I guess he thought maybe bring in Lars Ulrich to help him out with that.
Sure. That being said, the soundtrack sounds nothing like Metallica, in my opinion.
No.
So it's a weird one for me, just because I don't know. I'm sure I've heard Lars play on other things that were Metallica songs, but I can't think of one.
Have you
I'm
heard a
sure
drum
he
set
has.
fall downstairs before?
Yeah, for sure. Or have you heard a 10-year-old play the drums? That's not all his drumming, but some of them sounds like that. Yeah. So anyway, I liked it a lot, and wouldn't be shocked if it's on my top 20 at the end of the year. All right. Anybody else have anything spoiler free to say before we jump into spoilers? Nope. Let's do it. Do we want to give a rating now or after the spoilers?
We can give a
How do
rating
you
now.
feel? All right, let's do it. I gave it a 4.5.
I'd probably do 4.5 too.
I'm at 4 right now.
2 4.5s and a 4. This is now spoilers for Sinners. So if you don't want to hear a bunch of guys talk spoilers about the movie, then you should pause this and come back to it later, or fast forward to the Havoc review. If you have seen the movie or you don't care about spoilers, then listen on. All right. So do we just want to get it out of the way? It's a zombie. It's a vampire movie. It's a vampire movie.
It really is a movie where it can be like, these group of brothers, they wanted to open a juke joint. They got the band back together, got all their friends, and then the vampires showed up. You're like, what?
Yep. Yeah. So the two brothers, Smoke and Stack, start a juke joint. We get to meet the first hour or so. We get to meet all the people that are going to be in this juke joint on that night. For the most part, the main people.
The movie's pretty much 24 hours, right?
Yeah, basically.
Which would have been another great list to do. Movies that take place in 24 hours or less.
Feel like we've done that.
Probably you have.
Yeah, and then about halfway through the movie, much like From Dusk Till Dawn, vampires show up, and the genre kind of changes from period drama to vampire movie, where the vampires attack them in the juke joint and kind of manipulate their way into being invited into the juke joint. And by the way, the vampires that show up are white people, 2 of which are definitely Ku Klux Klan members.
Correct, yes.
And but they've been turned into vampires. So now they're kind of like hive mind vampires. And the main vampire is played by Jack O'Connell of Sing Street fame, amongst other things.
Oh, the guy from Midsommar.
Yes, the guy from
That's
Midsommar.
I did not pick up that was him.
That's him.
Okay.
Yep. And then the question is, how are they going to outlast the vampires over the course of the rest of the night, basically? And then there's basically like 2 little epilogues at the end that I'm sure we will get into after the vampire fun. So, anything else we need to spoil up front before we...
Did we make it clear that Michael B. Jordan plays 2 brothers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we can restate it.
Michael B. Jordan plays 2 jacked twin brothers in 1930s Mississippi.
Yeah, I liked his performance a lot too. It's hard to be on the screen for a good bit together, where you're playing both roles and have it be clear just with like facial expressions and like the way you say things that you are a completely different person than the character that you're also playing. Right. And I thought he did that despite looking exactly the same. He did that with Stack and Smoke. Like every time, just by looking at them and the expression on their face, you could tell who was who. And I like that.
Yeah.
Plus their hat.
Right. They also had different color hats on that helped.
I didn't even notice that.
Really?
Didn't.
But I do agree. I did not feel like I was watching Michael B. Jordan acting against himself, even though it was obviously him both times. They were 2 different characters with different personalities, and they even approached some situations a little differently too. We saw that in the juke joint when there started to be, this is before the vampire showed up, but there was some discussions over what kind of money do we accept, and one guy was like, no, we can't do this. The other guy's like, no, we gotta let people have a good time and party. And like they were not the same person. They were definitely two different characters, which I appreciated.
Mhm. That first time they show up on screen and they're standing, they're leaning against their car and they're sharing a cigarette.
Yeah.
Do you think they did facial replacement for that?
No, I don't.
Well,
Well,
you think they had like a camera on a track computer?
that
Because the
particular
camera was
scene,
moving.
sure. Motion control now is really
Right.
good, but that scene in particular bothered me a slight bit because I thought it was too cutesy. I mean, they're absolutely trying to say like, hey, look, let's have them pass a cigarette back and forth. Like, let's sell the shot, like it solely existed to like show off a little bit, and every time the cigarette passed from hand to hand, it was like 95% there, but not 100% there for me.
No,
and so
way.
it's like,
Do you notice it like morphing or jumping?
it did not feel smooth to me.
Really?
100%. And I think that's because of how slowly it was passed. It like as they were coming together, there was just a slight slowness to the pass off that did not feel real to me. And so for me, I was like, it's you're pausing the whole movie to give us this cutesy shot, and then you only sold it 95% to me.
Interesting.
Huh.
I didn't notice that. I didn't pick up on that, but
Me neither.
yeah.
Did it feel 100% like this is the most real thing I've ever seen?
Well, I mean, my brain knew that this was computer magic or camera trickery.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, like I wasn't like, oh wow, what's going on here? Like I knew there was something going on. I guess maybe now you pointed out, I see what you're saying by how they kind of slow down when they pass, and I don't know if that slow down was part of the choreography or if there was some like computer trickery going on of like, oh, we got to kind of get their hands positioned in the right way.
It's very specific marks. Something had hit. I don't know if it's a real body or a computer animation or what. Something had hit a very specific mark. But I'm just picturing handing a cigarette to someone, and I don't picture the kind of like slow connection and grab off. I'm picturing like, hey, thanks. Okay, I got it.
And that makes me think that it was not facial swap, but it was two Michael B. Jordans composited together.
Now, yeah, and I'd love to see how it's done, because a lot of these movies that do this kind of thing, they almost always have a body double. Not that they're doing facial swapping with, but just so that there's physically someone present there.
Right.
And so I wouldn't be surprised if another person was physically taking the cigarette or something, and then they would have Michael B. Jordan switch and have a different person handing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly what was happening, but yeah. That was definitely the movie showing off, I thought.
And this is the big spoiler of the movie, is the passing of the cigarette.
For sure.
What's funny is otherwise the movie did not really have a lot of two shots with them. I mean, there's some in the car.
I think there's more than you would imagine. You just got used to them.
Yeah,
Sure.
like in the juke joint, there was a ton of them in
Yeah.
the same room talking to each other.
There's a ton of the shot where he's on the ground after his brother got bit, stuff like that. There's a lot of that. There is a section there at the beginning where they split up for a while,
Yes.
but they come back together.
Kind of go on their own separate adventures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This movie is like the Star Wars trilogy all compressed into one movie, where they start together, they split up, they come back.
It kind of is, actually.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know if it is.
There's
It's very From
sacrifices are
Dusk Till
made.
Dawn.
Yep. Things are burned.
Mhm.
So let's talk about the vampire rules.
Okay.
I loved that these vampires had rules.
Yeah.
It made
So what were the
a much
rules?
more interesting movie. Well, so the big one was the vampires had to be invited into a building.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They couldn't just walk in. And so you the menace wasn't of, are they going to pop up? The menace was, these vampires looked like the person they got turned from. Right? So it still looks and sounds like your loved one. And here's your loved one saying, hey, can I come in?
Mhm.
And that's where the menace is of like, oh, are they going to let this person who they recognize as their loved one into this space?
It does present quite a challenge to the movie writers, because as long as if you know that they're vampires and you don't let them in, you're not really in any personal danger.
Right.
Yeah, and it's I mean, that was their plan of like, we just got to hang out until dawn. But these vampires were manipulative in the fact of like, oh, you can wait in there, but we know what's on the outside world that you're waiting for. So like, while you're waiting in there, we'll cause chaos on the outside world to your loved ones.
Right.
Which I thought that was a clever way, because I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, well, unless they leave, there's gonna be a standoff, a stalemate, essentially. I just thought
so that's essentially what happened is this woman, her husband gets turned into a vampire, and now he tells her, I'm going to go turn our daughter.
Right.
Right. So she invites them in so that they can fight, which personally, I guess I understand, but I thought it was incredibly selfish. Why invite them in instead of, if you like to fight them, you can just go out there. Like, you don't need to take away the safe zone. You can go outside if you'd like. You know what I mean? Right. Or just stab from the door is fine too. but there's no reason to take away the safe house. If you'd like to engage with them, go outside, and then you can run back into the house if you need to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't have been as spectacular if they had gone out.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
I mean, they eventually end up out there anyway, but
exactly. Yeah. So I agree. They needed the selfish decision, but that's what it seemed to be. What are the other rules? Garlic annoys them.
It burns them.
Burns them. Yep. Okay.
No sunlight.
Sunlight fries them, right?
Yep.
I mean, these are like traditional vampire rules. This is not like crazy stuff.
Yeah. Also, they can like jump really far.
Yeah.
Right. They seem to have superhuman strength.
Like, short of not seeing themselves in the mirror, like, this is all pretty standard vampire stuff.
Yeah.
Which I like. A lot of movies are like, oh, that rule's not convenient, so we're going to ignore it, type of thing. Whereas this movie stuck with kind of the traditional vampire rules, which was good. I like that.
You know, we kind of talked before, and I think all three of us are still parsing out, like, what's the actual theme behind the vampires? Because, right, this is a movie about African Americans in the Deep South, Jim Crow, Ku Klux Klan, racism. The vampires are white. One of the first characters to turn is Haley Steinfeld, who is, I would say, white presenting, but we learned that she has African American heritage. And I'm pretty sure in like, wait, wasn't like the grandfather rule? Like, if your grandfather was African American, then you're African American. And in this case, her grandfather was. She was one of the first people to turn into a vampire. So on the one hand, I got this sense of like, oh, the white people are the danger. But then the vampires also had this case of, you'll never be free here. Like, you're not wanted here. Join us and have ultimate freedom. So I was kind of wrestling with those two themes of like, is it both? Is it one? I'm still parsing that out.
Yeah, part of me was unsure where it was going to go.
Yeah.
Like, it was almost building a case for the kind of like an I Am Legend situation.
Right.
Where like the vampires were the true good civilization. And like, if he wanted to be with his twin brother again, that's how you do it, right? And that's the plan. Is like, his vampire brother was legitimately mad at him for killing his girlfriend with the spike, because he's like, you ruined the plan, man. Like, we're all going to be together. It's going to be all right because we're all going to be together. And like, and look, black and white, we're all dancing together to Irish music. Like, this is utopia. The world you live in is awful, you know? And it kind of made a compelling enough case that I thought it was going to convince them, or maybe even be the message of the movie. One thing, tell me guys, if you thought this at all. So the movie is framed by the actual central guy. What's his name? Is that Miles Canton?
Preacher Boy.
Yeah. Preacher.
Yeah.
It's framed by him showing up at his father's church the day after. And he's obviously been through it. And then it ends with him thereafter as well, right? And as I'm watching this movie and the vampires are coming out, I'm remembering that his dad had said, come on into the church.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, oh, okay, so he got turned into a vampire. Everyone at the juke joint got turned into a vampire, and he's about to go mess them up at church. You know what I mean?
Oh, because he got invited in.
Because he got invited in. I'm like, oh, he got invited in. He got turned. He's about to like, destroy them. And that did not happen at all.
Mhm.
And so my question to you is, did the movie want to make me wonder about that? Or was that like not at all in the movie's mind? And it just was the dad said, come on in. And like that had nothing to do with making me wonder if he's going to be a vampire or not in that situation.
I personally did not wonder that in that situation.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I completely can see your side of like,
But it's interesting, right? He's outside the
Yes.
church.
Yes.
He doesn't come in until the pastor says, come in, boy,
Yeah, that's a great point. I did not pick up on that.
I could
In
see
the
you
moment.
wondering that until you realize that vampires can't be in the sun, because that whole scene is in the sun.
It's right as the next day. That's a good
At
point.
that point, wouldn't happen, because he's driving to the church in the sun.
Since we're on the topic of Preacher Boy, I want to talk about his guitar,
Mm-hmm.
because we see that bullets can't stop the vampires. I don't know if fire stops the vampires. It really seems to only be stake to the heart. And Preacher Boy has this beautiful steel guitar, and at one point he hits the head vampire in the head with the guitar, kind of cracks it across his head, and that steel sort of drum of the guitar gets stuck in his head. And then we learn later that this is the guitar that was owned by Michael B. Jordan twins' father, who they kept saying was a bad person. He was an evil man. They murdered him Menendez style. At least one of them did.
Menendez style.
Well, yeah, like killed their own parents.
Aren't they going to get like exonerated?
I thought they were trying to get a retrial.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it
But,
was
I
like
mean-
a reduced sentence type thing, because they did kill their parents. Like,
They did it, right? This
That's
is not
not
like
really
a.
an
This is
issue.
not like
Okay.
a. Well,
All
someone
right.
else broke into the house and stole my dad's shotguns and shot him in the back of the head. Like,
I think
You
they're
know a
just
lot about the Menendez brothers.
Well, there was like a whole documentary and
Yeah.
and drama made of it.
It was-
in the
yeah,
last year.
and also when it happened, I remember like watching not appropriate television when it happens, and like getting
See,
all that trashy stuff.
I didn't. I think I know less than the average American about the Menendez brothers and about Jean-Benet Ramsey. I'm behind on those two.
Oh, Jean-Benet Ramsey, definitely the weird older brother is the murderer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think.
So you're up on this.
The current theory is the weird older brother murdered her, and then the parents are covering up to protect the family.
Okay.
Anyway,
I don't know anything about it.
Okay, so the dad's guitar.
right. So we learn it's the dad's guitar. Is there a reason why this guitar hurt this vampire? It didn't kill him, but like it obviously lodged a chunk of the guitar in the vampire's skull, which seemed unexpected. And I was trying to figure out if that had meaning or not.
You can certainly do physical damage to the vampires, right?
Yeah.
I think that's all it did.
Yeah, but they made a big point where Preacher Boy thought it was a famous person's guitar from Chicago. And then we learn towards the end of the movie, oh no, that was our daddy's guitar. And
I
we
don't
know
think
the
that
dad's
was
a bad person.
significant to like its danger to vampires. I just thought it was
Okay.
significant to like he believed a narrative about it that was different than the reality.
Interesting.
Or
Okay.
that he believed that it was a valuable historical guitar,
And that's what
and
made
then
it
he
important.
broke it over the head of a vampire and no longer had the historical nice guitar. And then they're like, oh, well, that guitar wasn't really as nice as we told you it was.
The idea is like the magic was in you the whole time.
Right.
Oh,
You
I
know?
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that was closer to it.
I thought it was like some sort of totem of evil or something like that.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, go ahead, James.
I was just ready to move on to like music in general on this movie. I mean, there's a specifically the whole, thing about the movie, the whole overarching everything is this idea that these two brothers, they come to Chicago, they're starting a juke joint where black people can play music and have fun. And then you meet this preacher kid who's good at guitar and singing the blues. And so he fits in perfectly with the idea of going to this juke joint. And then they go to the juke joint and they're having fun together. And there's this one really strange, but what I thought pretty killer sequence
Yes.
where the music goes from like what you'd expect for the time period to this odd generational remix where the camera is in one take, or at least presented as one take, moving around the room, filming all the people dancing in the juke joint. And some of the people are dressed like, I don't know, traditional African,
like
tribesmen.
Period piece.
Yeah.
They were, oh, I see what you're saying. Like people from actual Africa.
Yeah, people from actual Africa doing like dances in front of what you'd think of when you think of, Africans doing dances around fires type of thing to drum beats. And then you've got rappers in there from like the 90s. You've got
like 70s guitar players.
Yeah, 70s guitar players. There were just all these different generations of music, specifically like black sure.
American music. Yeah.
Yeah. But you still haven't left the juke joint, and it also didn't try to convince you that these people were actually in the room.
Right.
It was more just like, I think that was the moment where I was like, okay, there's clearly more to that. They're trying to say more with what's about to happen with the vampires. Because this is like just before basically the vampire stuff starts to happen. And they're making some kind of commentary, or they're leading to some kind of commentary about the idea of like, this is theirs type of thing. This is like created by them, essentially. And then minutes later, you got 3 white people knocking on their door saying, can we come in and have fun? And then over the course of the rest of the movie, those white people essentially assimilate all the black people and make them dance to Irish music. And essentially like forego all the history that was in the juke joint.
Right.
That's the way I saw it. I don't know. Is that how you guys read it too?
Well, I think there's one element that you kind of left out is that the movie had this line basically that sometimes the way you play music is so good that it can invite spirits from the past and the future.
Right.
Like kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so that was definitely an element at play where it's like the playing was so transcendent that like the spirits of African Americans, past, present, and future, like we're all there in that moment, kind of a thing. But yeah, it was like the juke joint was a thing for them, like it was just for them. The only reason she could come in was that she was part black, and like, that was the understanding there or whatever. But that this thing could never be in our world. Like, even if the vampires hadn't come that night and destroyed it, the Klan was coming the next morning to destroy it. Like, it was always doomed because of the reality of the world, kind of a thing. It did make me think, I'm surprised in history there aren't more examples of like honeypot African-American establishments where they say they're going to do something for the sole purpose of like knowing the Klan will come that night, and they have strategically placed snipers around in order to take out the Klan, like in this movie.
I've never heard of that.
Right.
I think most of the time black people were on their heels. There wasn't much time or resources for all that.
Right.
I think I don't know. It could have happened, but I've never heard of that.
Yeah. Kyle?
So on the topic of the music, it felt like we were given sort of this history of Black American music and its importance to African American culture
in that one sequence.
Right? But yeah, also as you said, James, sort of how all of those forms of music we saw are eventually co-opted by white people. So, first blues, then rock and roll, then hip hop, and like every major form of pop music can be drawn back to African American roots, but often popularized by a white artist.
Yeah.
Here's a question I have for you guys, and this is purely speculation. How do you think this movie would be different to view if you were African American versus your white selves? Like, do you think African Americans are getting something more out of this? Because I've read some conversation online of like some of the stuff, like some of the ways that like these characters are talking, especially Cornbread and stuff like that, are just absolutely hilarious, like to the line. And I just feel like we are periphery to the core audience of this movie, and it would be interesting to be in that audience.
Well, I was in that audience.
Okay. I mean, be a member of that audience.
Okay. I mean, I was a member of the audience. I was a minority in that audience, but I was a member of the audience.
What I mean, it'd be interesting to watch this movie as a black person.
I understand what you're saying. That I can't do. But I was definitely, there was maybe, my screening was almost sold out. And there was maybe, not that I was counting, but I would guess 20 white people in that audience. I mean, it was majority black audience for sure.
Like what percentage?
Like 95% black.
Okay.
I was definitely in the minority, which is fine. But there wasn't, I've been in movies where where I'm also the minority in it. And there are things happening that I'm clearly not a part of. I never got that feeling in this movie. With my audience. Like there weren't people laughing at points when I was like, I don't get it type of thing. Whereas I've definitely had that experience in other times. There's a couple times where people were loudly talking to the screen because characters were doing dumb things, which I've seen white people do too, but it was a lot in this one for sure. Especially as Haley Steinfeld was like doing things. And when the husband went out to get the car, like those were like two moments where like the crowd got very loud, even though the movie, it was not at a loud moment.
What about looking through the knife hole? Because
that as well.
A couple people in my audience.
Yeah.
My audience was predominantly white. So there's a couple of white people in my audience like, don't do it, you're gonna get stabbed in the eye.
Yeah, I mean, I think
they're shush them, but it's fine.
I think clearly it comes from
talk to the manager.
It comes from that perspective.
Yeah.
And I think it's made primarily on a top level for that culture. But it's got such universal themes and I think it was fairly easy to understand, even if like I didn't squeeze every inch out of it. This is what I love about this movie and movies like Get Out is they take genre cliches, genre principles or formulas, and they reinterpret them from a completely different perspective. And the best of them do it in a way where it still feels like a genre film. It doesn't feel preachy. It's like watching the original Dawn of the Dead, which was about consumerism, but it's actually a zombie movie. Nobody was ever going to watch a movie about consumerism unless it was a zombie movie, or at least not to the number that currently have. And I think this movie makes a point about cultural appropriation on some level. And the idea of allowing people to have their own spaces. And it does it in a really entertaining way, a pretty wrong way from a violence perspective, but that's what, horror movies are. They're always the extreme one way or the other. I don't know. Does that make sense at all?
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I think Get Out is a great comparison.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys make of the title of the movie?
That was the one thing I'm not sure I fully understood was the preacher being anybody who plays music or wants to be a musician is a sinner. And that's how I saw the title is everybody in the movie, I guess, was a sinner because they all
Right.
were interested in owning or being at or participating in a juke joint. But I don't know.
I mean, there is a connection between, culturally between sort of that Delta blues music and the devil. There's Robert Johnson, who is a musician, and the story was he sold his soul to the devil at the crossroads to become such a great musician. So like there definitely was some of that mixed into it of like rock and roll, blues. That's the devil's music. But there wasn't as much of that church aspect. It really only was in the two ends, the beginning, which is the ending also.
I got the sense that so everyone in this movie like is a sinner in some way, right? Like the main twins probably did horrible things in Chicago, working for Capone.
Capone, exactly.
Like all of them have issues. It does seem like Preacher Boy is probably the least. Like his sin is playing his music instead of at the church, where I'm sure his dad would like him to play it, is playing at the juke joint where everyone's going there to like do sinful things, right? So he's helping them do their sinful things. But it does seem like he's a little bit more pure than the others, although he was actively trying to like get that married woman to sleep with them.
Oh, he succeeded.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
When did that happen?
Do you want me to explain it to you?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it happens.
Okay, so he succeeded. Okay.
You don't remember when Stack is like, my cousin's in there, and his cousin's doing the thing that he told him to do when they were driving around in the car.
Put his head under her dress.
Oh, I don't remember. Maybe I fell asleep during that part.
You blocked it out.
Maybe I blocked it out. Okay, so I take it back. They're all dirty rotten.
Sure.
But like the end, the second end credit scene, you know, he's playing this little light of mine in the church, and he's the only one that gets to live out a long, eventful life.
Yeah.
So it seems like in some way he's spared. So I don't know. What do you guys make of all that and the end credits?
Yeah, right. I was expecting him to choose the church at the end. They show him in a close up clutching this broken guitar, and you're waiting for him to drop it, right? It's symbolically, and he doesn't, right? He goes on, and then we get this. By the way, people left like when the credits started, and then there's another 5 minutes of movie after the credits. So I feel bad for those people who left right away.
There's nothing people like more than as soon as they think a movie over is like running out of the theater.
I don't understand that.
People love it.
Yeah, just like they gotta be the first. It's like 1 p.m. on a Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, some people have to use the restroom, guys.
A lot of them do. I've never seen an American move that fast as they think a theater movie might be done.
Almost as fast as when the plane lands.
Yeah, I mean, there's basically 3 endings to this movie. 4 endings. Yeah. There's the vampire ending. There's the KKK ending,
which we didn't discuss at all. The KKK ending.
We can go back to it. There's the This Little Light Is Mine ending, and then there's the 80s or 90s ending. Right. So let's go through them one by one. Vampire ending. I love the shot in the water right outside the juke joint with like the sun rising. Like from a cinematography perspective, it was so cool and good looking. It's also like most of the promo shots for the movie, which totally makes sense. So in the movie, they make a point to say it's a hive mind, but if you kill the top vampire, everybody else stays a vampire. But I guess they no longer have the hive mind. Is that what? I
assume they would be. The hive is just shrunken. They might still keep the hive.
Oh, you're just not being led by the guy who was formerly leading you?
I would assume so, yeah.
I don't even think he was leading them. I think he was just an elder in the hive.
I mean, he's doing a dancing jig while a bunch of black people are singing Irish music around him. I don't think that was
sure.
Their choice.
Only one person can sing a song at a time. I mean,
I know, but
only one. See, we didn't see it. They took a vote.
I don't feel like he was directly controlling them, but he was like certainly like
influencing.
Right.
I think he was the leader, but I don't necessarily think he's the queen bee and they're all the minions.
Gotcha. Okay. Fair enough.
Like he's not the prime vampire.
Right.
He's just the most vampire.
The most
he's been the vampire for the longest. Yeah, the most senior.
Sure.
Yeah. Of the Mississippi Delta.
Then after that, you've got the KKK showing up and then Smoke basically just annihilating all of them in one fell swoop, which my theater loved, by the way.
So it felt very Tarantino-ish, kind of like
sure.
Wish fulfillment.
yeah, Inglourious Bastards taking out Hitler and everything.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, let's get back one on the KKK.
Right. And then I also liked that it wasn't completely just, glorified wish fulfillment. It ends right then with him being reunited with his girlfriend and daughter. I don't know what they were, to be honest. Partner and
Baby
daughter.
mama.
Which is certainly not something that all genre movies, not the type of satisfaction that all genre movies will give you at the end of a movie. Most of them end very dark. And while this one definitely had some darkness in its multiple endings, also it had a little light here and there, which I thought was interesting. Anything else to say about the KKK shootout at the end? They definitely made Michael B. Jordan a superhero in that scene. Like nothing, he gets hit eventually, but for the most part, nobody can hit him. He's just mowing people down. One against 20.
He has a Tommy gun.
But 1 against 20? Come on. You can't fire that gun 20 different directions at the same time.
Well, it's a machine gun. It can go really fast. I will say I liked the scene. It felt maybe a little tacked on of like, okay, let's give him one good action gun scene. Like if that scene was not on there, I guess it does give you the ending where he's reunited with his family. But there's other ways they could have done that too.
Hmm. Then after that, you get this little light is mine sequence in the church, where the preacher's son is basically just playing that song, and the camera's just trained on him or a shortened version of the song, but and then cut to credits. Do you feel like that scene actually happened, or it was just like a thing they threw on? Because there's nobody else in the church.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like just, this actor is actually a good singer and good guitarist. We should have him sing this song.
Oh, no. I mean, I think the character would have reason to sing that. I don't think it was like, he's singing, quick, record him.
No, I understand. I think they set it up too. I'm just saying, I'm not sure. Much like the scene where the people from different generations were in the shot, it's a part of the movie, but not like a part of the timeline of the movie.
What makes you think that it's not part of the timeline of the movie?
Because there's really no explanation for why it's in there.
Well, so let me explain why I think it's in there, but also just from a plain reading, it's his dad's church. I'm sure he spends 80 hours a week in that building. You know what I mean? Like just as a pastor's kid, he's probably in there constantly. And since he's a musician, he's probably noodling around all the time. Anyways, he's literally saying this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. So like thematically, if you take those lyrics at face value, like his light to share with the world is his guitar playing. And instead of like stuffing that down or quitting on it, he's going to let it shine. He's going to embrace his light to the world, and he's going to embrace playing guitar and instead of like putting that fire out like his dad wants to. That's what I took the meaning of the song. I mean, obviously it has its like, normal kid song religious meaning.
Right.
But for him, he's like, no, I'm going to let my guitar light shine. That's how I took it.
And you felt like chronologically the movie played out in the proper order, and then he visited the church the morning after, and then in sequence at some point he played that song alone in the church.
I think at some point he played that song alone in the church. I don't know if it happened before or after. Yeah. But at some point I think he played that song in the church.
I don't remember. Did he have the scrapes on his face when he played that in the church?
I don't remember either. Probably.
Yeah. I mean, that would tell you whether it was before or after.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be completely honest. I hardly remember this little light of mine scene. Like you guys are really fixated on it.
It was like a minute and a half in the mid.
The last thing in the
credits. Movie. It was like mid credits.
Like while the credits were playing.
No, there wasn't
it the last. I think it was the last end credits. I think it came after the 90s.
No.
Oh, no?
No,
I thought
think
the 90s was
are
the
very
last thing.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So for me, my last memory of Preacher Boy in this movie as young Preacher Boy in the 30s was, his father saying, "Come back to the church." And then next we see him in the car driving away with the broken guitar next to him. So we know, oh, he made this choice to leave.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know. Again, it's, for whatever reason, this little light to mine scene is not sticking out for me. But I got the impression that it did not happen chronologically.
Okay.
Because for me, the story is he said, "I'm not coming back to church. I'm living my life. I'm leaving," and then he was gone.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine him never coming back after that.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Well, anyway, after that, at the very end of
Okay,
the
no.
no.
The 90s scene comes, and then after that, the plane in the church comes. The
Oh,
plane
really?
in the church is the last thing in the movie.
Okay. So
Okay.
So Kyle, you might not have seen it.
No, because I definitely left when the lights came up. So I saw it, but maybe I was just processing the 90s part, and it was just sort of...
Okay.
Yeah.
So they do
did
the
not feel
90s
bad from that bad guys.
So was the 90s part the mid credits?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the singing was the very end. Very, 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 very end. Okay.
Interesting.
So in the 90s section, you've got old preacher's son. He's like now a blues legend. He's playing in some kind of blues bar. He's the headliner. And after the show, he's sitting at the bar, and Stack, who got turned into a vampire in the 30s, and his woman, played by Haley Steinfeld, who also got turned in the 30s, show up, and they're like, "Hey, how's it going? Long time no see. We're not going to kill you because we promised Smoke we wouldn't. But we can sense you're about to die because you're an old man, and we want to give you one last shot. If you would like to become a vampire and live forever, we can make that happen for you." And he's like, "I'm good." And then that's the end of the movie, essentially.
What he says is, up until that evening, that was the greatest day of my life.
Right. So what happened that evening that was so great?
I think he got to be in the juke joint, play his music. I think that was him being his authentic self, like not being the preacher's kid, not being in church, but to be in this club with other people, and they have that connection. I get it. I'm guessing that spiritual connection to his history through his music.
Gotcha. You mean before the vampires showed up and everybody died?
Yeah.
Right, and that's what he said. He said, up until that evening, that was a great day of my life.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So getting to hang out with Smoke and Stack and then play the music and all that stuff.
And just be part of the community. Yes.
Right.
And I think that's why he chose to then go on and be a blues musician, not to go back to his dad. Because he was like, this made me happy. This is who I want to be. This is my life.
Sure. Yeah.
I wonder why they chose the 90s. And I was just only wondering if it's because of like the blues revival, like B.B. King got big again in the 90s, and it's sort of, Eric Clapton was doing things. Like, why choose 1993 to end this movie? Because it could have been, or is it just an appropriate age for the character, I guess?
It could have been appropriate age.
That makes sense too.
He
Okay.
he couldn't have lasted till now.
That's very old man.
It would have made him like early 80s or so. Maybe late 70s.
Yeah, because he's probably like young 20s in the movie.
Right.
Or, right around there. So that makes sense, yeah.
Okay. Anything else with Sinners that we need to discuss? Final thoughts on Sinners, even if it's not spoilers? Anybody changing their score, Kyle?
This could get a half star.
Okay.
I think maybe if I can better understand thematically, that would, again, and that's on me. That's not on the movie per se. That's just sort of on my understanding. But
sure. I really loved it. I thought all the pieces came together very well. I think it's hard to make a genre movie that feels artful this did.
Yeah.
Yet it still remained what I like about vampire movies. Like it kept all those elements and it didn't necessarily even spin those. It's just when those started to come into play, they held true to what the rules are for them. And made the rules work for them within the theme of what they're trying to get accomplished. And it also didn't fall into the trap of like less memorable movies in these worlds of like not giving you enough time to get invested in characters. I felt like this one spent plenty of time, just the right amount of time, establishing all of the characters. And even though some of them felt a little cliched going into the night, he just kept developing them until they turned. And then even after they turned as vampires, he was still developing some of those characters. Like the Stack shot at the very end in the bar in the 90s, like you're still seeing Stack in that character.
I really liked how much of their personality they kept once they were vampires. Like they were 100% still there, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think that's why people are enjoying this more than you would expect just a vampire movie released in April. Is because there's more to it than it just being a vampire movie released in April. And it was surprisingly well done. One thing we didn't talk about is the politics behind this movie, the Hollywood politics behind this movie. Have you guys been reading about?
I'm not aware of these whatsoever now.
So Ryan Coogler wrote the script and shopped it around, and several studios wanted it. And a bidding war ensued. And he basically said, whoever is going to get this movie has to give it back to me in 25 years. Full ownership. There were two conditions. One, full ownership in 25 years. And two, I get a percentage of the box office before it turns a profit. And he essentially took almost nothing to direct it and write it and produce it. And Warner Brothers agreed to that. And it's done incredibly well. And he's going to make a lot of money. And in 25 years, they don't get to add it to their catalog, which is not something these studios do. The idea that like it's going to revert back to the filmmaker in 25 years, that is not how they've done business so far. And so what does this mean for like people with power in Hollywood, or creative power rather?
Yeah.
As far as Ryan Coogler is concerned. And a lot of the press, traditional Hollywood press, like Variety and Hollywood Reporter, it's been pointed out that a lot of the articles they've been writing about Sinners is slanted. More towards like they're talking about how bad it's doing at the box office when you can compare it to other movies that didn't have those Hollywood politics attached to it, with similar budgets, similar genres, similar performance, and they had framed all those positively.
Yeah.
And so the question was, are you racist, or is it because of the deal here and the fact that the deal is so untraditional as to why you're framing this as a negative when in reality you framed the exact same situation, not the exact same situation, but similar situations in a different light. Yeah, that's not really a spoiler discussion, but I just find it interesting. If you want to dive deeper, just go online. There's articles actively being written about this movie for other reasons. How do you guys feel about the idea of filmmakers owning their own films?
I mean, we're seeing that with musicians already.
Sure.
And I think movies are now just kind of catching up. And I'm okay with the idea of, like, do we need to let the producers get rich off these things? Like, they're not the artists. Yes, they have the money. They can fund these things.
They take most of the risk.
But it's almost...
They take most of the risk.
A financial risk. But they're not taking a creative risk. And like who should be rewarded? The person who takes the risk, or the artist who makes the art in the first place? And I think through music, we saw that so often where you have these musicians, but the label would say, well, we own all your music. And then finally people like Taylor Swift and others get big enough where they re-record or they can renegotiate their contracts. And I think movies are kind of getting to that same point now of like, I want to own my work, not the people who produced it.
I think it definitely depends on the project, right? Like a movie like Sinners, where somebody conceives it, writes it, directs it. It makes sense to me that they might own it on the other end. But if you're Ryan Coogler and you're directing Black Panther, maybe you get a share of the first dollar, at the box office before it turns a profit, which it's going to, no matter what kind of Hollywood math they put to it. But you're not going to own it.
Well, right. If you're a director for hire.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. But these studios, I mean, the reason why they've survived is back catalogs. And if they start giving away the back catalog, I don't know. I don't know what happens. I mean, I'm sure they'd happily give away 95% of their back catalog. But that 5% is where all the classics are that they can resell to streamers and, make new versions of and all that fun stuff.
Sell to James a bunch of times.
Yep, exactly. All right. Anything else with Sinners? All right. We're still sticking with a 4 and 2 4.5s for Sinners. Let's get into our second main event movie of the week. I imagine this discussion is going to be a lot shorter. It's a movie called Havoc. It's now streaming on Netflix. We're going to talk about it right after this clip.
What you got for me? Oh.
We got footage of our suspect. Do you know him?
My son is not a killer.
This kid is public enemy number 1. Your son just started a gang war. They just want to shoot him dead. That's the end of his story.
I make one phone call. You go down for life. Get him back. I'm gonna get you out.
It ain't up for discussion.
There are people out there looking for you.
You're not gonna get out of this city alive without my help.
Don't forget, I know what you did.
That was Havoc, a 2025 action thriller written and directed by Gareth Evans, starring Tom Hardy, Jessie May Lee, Justin Cornwell, Quellen Sepulveda, Luis Guzman, Yeo Yan, Timothy Oliphant, and Forrest Whitaker, amongst others. The official IMDb plot synopsis for Havoc is: after a drug deal gone wrong, a bruised detective must fight his way through the criminal underworld to restore a politician's estranged son. To rescue a politician's estranged son, unraveling a deep web of corruption and conspiracy that ensnares his entire city. Man, that plot actually sounds like this movie has a plot.
That sounds interesting.
What did you guys think of Havoc? I guess that's where we're at. Or do you want me?
Zach,
or do you want me to go?
Yeah. Go ahead, James.
As a big fan of Gareth Evans, like just a week ago, I was touting his first movie, Marintow. I like Raid. I think Raid 2 is okay. That other movie he made for Netflix that was set like in colonial times was fine. Not good, but fine. Interesting filmmaker. Very specific action, Indonesian action filmmaker, even though he's a British filmmaker. He like between Marintow and the 2 Raid films, like completely Indonesian productions. And I like those movies. Those are my 3 favorite movies of his. And it felt like with this one, he tried to bring that Indonesian action formula into an American filmmaking style, I guess, and cast English speaking actors and kind of mix in a few of the guys from his old movies, just as kind of like fodder for the most part. and replace a lot of the hand-to-hand combat with gun shenanigans, I would say. And I'm not saying the plots of The Raid and The Raid 2 and Marintow are like Oscar-worthy screenwriting or anything. But for some reason, the action supported it in a better way than what I found with Havoc. With Havoc, it just felt like everything was so thinly motivated and everything was so much a caricature of things. All the like the difference between Sinners and Havoc, even though they're both not equally violent, but they're both very violent, extreme movies, I would say, is that Havoc felt extreme for no reason. I would say, other than like trying to entertain with blood and action. And there's a place for that. The Raid 1 is probably the movie directed by Gareth Evans that the most people have seen. And that movie only exists to entertain via action. Like the plot for Raid 1 is almost nothing. And so there's definitely a place for that. I just was not on board with this one because it felt so samey, I guess, or like not creative. There were flashes that I enjoyed, but they were almost not the violent parts of the movie. Every time it got violent, it got very muddy and dark and extremely bloody and very unrealistic. I'm not looking for ultra realism in a movie like this, but like I also don't want somebody pulling the trigger of a handgun and having like 500 bullets come out of it without them reloading. You know what I mean? Like sometimes the reloading is the good part of the movie. That makes you feel like they're actually surviving something. As opposed to like essentially a ultra violent cartoon playing out in front of you. And so it felt at its surface like a movie for me. The cast was like, oh, that's cool. He got a good like big name cast, or at least in Tom Hardy, he got a big name. Timothy Olyphant, I guess, is a name, not one that I would say is a box office draw or anything. But so I was ready for like his American version of those other movies I enjoyed. And in some ways it is that, and in other ways it's lost all its magic in the course of translating it to this new format. I don't know. I also missed in those original movies, there's like a clear like fight, boss, fight, boss type of rhythm to them, where like one fighter is not fodder. They're actually difficult to get through. And this movie has almost none of that. It's like everybody's fodder. There's like a brief section at the end with a female fighter where she's a little better than everybody else. But like in those, their John Wick movies have the same pattern. Like John Wick movies are like, you know, fodder, boss, fodder, boss. That's why they're fun. John Wick movies are like violent, certainly. But when they choose to be extremely violent, you can feel it, because the whole thing isn't extremely violent. And so with this movie, it felt like the whole thing was, and so there was never, it didn't come in waves for some reason for me. So I don't know. I was disappointed as somebody who was looking forward to the movie. How'd you guys feel about it?
I didn't have strong feelings going into it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say this movie met my expectations of being a forgettable streamer action movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it kind of fit the formula of like, oh, we'll get a big name, Tom Hardy. We'll get some slightly big names, Timothy Olyphant, Forrest Whitaker to fill it out. We'll get a bunch of fodder, as you said. And then we'll just let a director we know do whatever for an hour and 47 minutes and just, it's like how much blood and bullets we put on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie was, it kind of, I don't know, like it felt like John Woo light at times, where it was trying to go for drama. Like Forrest Whitaker, spoiler alert, he has a death scene towards the very end, and it was so hammy and like he was playing it so big. I was like, what is going on right now? This is a movie where it's like, why use one bullet when you can use 8? And you know, you're talking about John Wick. Like, John Wick is a violent movie. People are getting shot in the head all the time, but John Wick shoots them in the head once and then moves on to the next bad guy. And in this movie, every person gets shot like 8 or 9 times from handguns. And it's handguns that seem to respond like machine guns. Like you pull the trigger of these handguns and it's just like a barrage of bullets out of them. No one reloads in the movie. I can't imagine a moment. I remember a moment where someone actually reloads a clip. I'm sure it happens, but it really is like, this handgun's got 40 shots in it, and it's a submachine gun, and it's silenced. And it's just, I could see how some people could enjoy like the ridiculousness of it, because it is ridiculous. But like you said, it's so dark and muddy, and it's trying to be broody, it feels like, or like a noir, that it's not fun. It's just violent and gross. The Raid, violent movie. Raid Redemption, violent movie. But The Raid is literally a video game of like, we're on level 1 and the boss is on level 20, and we have to go up and up level to level, Nakatomi Plaza style, till we get to the boss. And I don't think there's any twists in The Raid. I don't think there's any reveals. I'm sure there might be something, but it's pretty straightforward. Of, you get in a room, you fight a bunch of guys, you go to the next room, you fight a bunch of guys. And this movie was trying to like be a noir. We had dirty cops. We have Tom Hardy's got a past, but he's really a good guy. Forrest Whitaker is another corrupt cop. Like, what was the movie we saw with Ron Perlman and Matt Damon, and the robbery movie we saw last year? Casey Affleck.
Oh, with Casey Affleck.
I don't remember
the brothers. I know what you're talking about, but
right. That movie, like, that was a heist movie, but then we also had corrupt Ron Perlman in there, and you feel like you're watching 2 different movies.
Yeah.
This was the same way, where it's like, this is an action movie, and we've got corrupt Forrest Whitaker in there at the same time.
The Instigators.
The Instigators, that's what it was, right? So
terrible name.
We gotta say, like, from Boston, the Instigators, and that's much better. So yeah, I don't know. It just, I was bored after a while. It's a lot of ropey blood flying around.
A lot of digital blood too.
A lot of digital blood. The cabin shootout was maybe the most fun, but because everything else was as violent as the cabin shootout, it didn't feel special. It was just longer than the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick a favorite scene, it was the club shootout. But that's only just because I hadn't gotten tired of everything that movie was going to give me.
Right, and you got, it's multi-level, people being thrown off of stair,
And it was like better lit than the fight scenes later on in the movie, where where it was like much tighter quarters and you just couldn't see what was going on. That's another thing that the John Wick movies do well, and that Gareth Evans' previous movies did well, is they pull the camera back and use longer takes so that you can actually see that like people are skilled at this. You know what I mean? They're talented at performing these things. Whereas this was like way too quick cut, real close in on people, and like just tons of firepower from like point blank range, basically. That is just not that interesting to watch over and over and over and over again. Zach, how did you feel about it?
I mean, I would echo a lot of what you guys said. It's a movie that feels fairly disposable, certainly unmemorable. A couple things I would note is the very first scene kind of set the tone. It's this like police chase scene that's like way more aggressive than would actually take place in real life. Like, the cops are not going to be following this fast and close and dangerously in a chase like this.
There's a guy hang off a door for whatever reason.
Sure. Yeah. And so it kind of said like, okay, we're going to be in a heightened reality where things just are more intense. One pet peeve I have with like noir films in general, but a lot of these like gritty crime films, especially the ones that are like a little grindhouse in the sense of like you're supposed to get these base thrills from them. of like, ooh, people are just shooting at each other, you know, like it's very like appealing to like a broad sense of like, this is cool action. Why do they pair that with like just very convoluted, confusing plots that have to do with lots of characters and names and history, and you know what I mean? Like this movie's plot was so much more complicated. Like, why can't it just be something simple, like with The Raid, where it's like, we just had to get to level 20, you know, like it's just so clear what the goal is the entire time. Whereas this movie, it's just like, I mean, if you had to fully explain the plot of this movie and what every character's role in it was, it's like not fun to talk about. So I don't know. So that's just a pet peeve I have with these kinds of movies in general.
And none of the characters were likable, and they didn't really give us full backstories for anybody. It was all just like shades of backstory. Even the main character, like the Tom Hardy character, is like, okay, is he a dirty cop? Or is he a good cop, the only good cop? Or is he a good cop who got caught in the wrong, you know, scheme? Or, you know what I mean? Like they're just, there was no definition to any of it. And over the course, it's okay if over the course of the movie you give us some definition. But by the end of it, I still don't know why he cared about saving Forrest Whitaker's son. You know what I mean? Like, I other than he said he would.
Yeah, I got the impression that maybe we don't talk about the plot because it's stupid. Like Tom Hardy is a dirty cop, but he's not as dirty as Timothy Olyphant and those other guys. So he's a dirty cop with a line. And I guess Forrest Whitaker, the mayor, got him and Timothy Olyphant out of some trouble. So I don't think he was helping the son out of the goodness of his heart so much as I owe you one.
Yeah.
Sure, I guess.
But I thought it was super dumb that the son was being chased by like this sounds so stupid the more I say it out loud, by the mom of the triad gang anyway. Because like there is this shootout, you know, these masked people walked into this gang club. They murdered everyone, including the son. And the only footage happens to be at the same time Forrest Whitaker's son was there, and like his girlfriend pulled a handgun upstairs. And so she's like, well, this person murdered my son and the whole group. I'm like, did you see all the death and carnage? You think a handgun did all that? So like at no point did I believe that she actually wanted to get these people. It just seemed like you said, Zach, it was convenient of like, oh, she has to chase these people. They didn't really do it. But I'm like, but it's not believable that she did it in the first place, because little bitty handgun, 3 guys with assault rifles, different kind of level of damage.
Right. That being said, it was fun to watch Timothy Olyphant and Forrest Whitaker in this movie, just because it's not the kind of movie I'd expect them to be in.
I mean, was it fun, or were you just like surprised?
It was like a little, whenever they were on screen, it felt like the camp meter went up a little bit.
Sure.
And I feel like that's what this movie needed, was just like, it felt like the people in it were taking it very seriously. And it was not a serious movie to me. Just through some of the presentational aspects of it. On paper, it looks like, it reads like a, you know, crime noir type thing. Good cop, or, you know, dirty cop type story. And, but the action was so kind of over the top, and all the characters were just so, like, not necessarily that they were thin, they were just pointless. That whenever Timothy Olyphant and Forrest Whitaker came on screen, I was like, okay. And Luis Guzman, it was kind of like, all right, I'll try to have fun with this again. You know what I mean? Especially Luis Guzman being on screen. I was like, what is he doing in this movie? It's kind of weird, but it's fun.
That was super weird.
Yeah.
He's going to single-handedly hold the doors closed to stop the gang from getting in.
Yeah.
It's a flawless plan, guys.
And Timothy Olyphant too, like if you've seen enough of him and his TV shows and stuff like that, seeing him in like an Indonesian action film, like an ultra-violent Indonesian-based action film, it's just not a formula I would have ever thought of. For some reason, Tom Hardy, it makes sense to me why he would want to be in this, but why Timothy Olyphant is like doing hand-to-hand combat with people half his size. It just it was like, okay, this is weird, but kind of interesting. But then like once they're done with the club, spoiler alert, Luis Guzman's out of the picture. Timothy Olyphant barely fights for the rest of the movie after that sequence. And Forrest Whitaker, I think his character, if it had been played a little more devious or delicious, you know what I mean? Like a little, I don't know.
More scenery chewing.
Yeah, a little more nasty, hamming it up a little bit. I think I would have bought into that a little bit more. But instead, they wanted him to kind of be like the changed father when he sees his son. Yeah. And I was just kind of like, do all these characters need redemption arcs? Not really. We could have a couple that are just evil that we need to get rid of.
I'm wanting Giancarlo Esposito to be in the Forrest Whitaker role.
Yeah.
I think he would have brought the right energy to it.
Yeah, maybe. All right. Anything else with Havoc?
No.
It's a generic title also. Like it's a perfect streamer title.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. They should have named it A Havoc. That way it could be at the top of the list alphabetically. All right. Let's letterbox it. What are we going to give Havoc?
I'm going to give this 2 stars.
I'll give it 2.5.
I gave it a 2.5 as well. Pretty average as these things go. But I was definitely hoping for more. All right. Let's jump into our list for this week. It's the top 10 movies in which an actor plays multiple roles. Now, I know Zach definitely has a caveat to that title. And I think I do too now. And I think it holds pretty strong for Kyle, from what I understand. So we will.
Kyle wishes he had the caveat.
Okay.
I wish I was as clever as you guys were.
Oh, I'm not clever. I just did it wrong.
Okay.
Mine is more like top 10 performances of an actor in which they played multiple roles in a movie. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I didn't list it based on the movie. I listed it based on the actor in the movie and their performance.
I gotcha.
I would say that if these are not just straight based off my top 600, like I'm weighting the performance from the actor also.
Sure.
So yeah, I have a little bit of that.
Interesting. Okay, maybe I might reorder my list if I go third. I would like it to be more like how much did they sell the performance of the multiple characters.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Here's the caveat of my list is, and I did think all of us were doing this same thing because this movie specifically has an actor playing 2 different characters on screen at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Sinners, not Havoc.
Sinners, yeah.
Yeah.
And so you have, they somehow have to use movie magic to make that happen. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Which is slightly different than just they're Eddie Murphy and they play multiple roles, and that's, they hired less actors as a result,
Yep.
So I'm pretty sure in Coming to America, they have a barbershop scene and there's multiple characters on screen and they're all Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what percentage of Eddie Murphy movies he plays more than one character.
It's
8%.
probably a lower percentage than you think just because he's in a lot of movies.
I think it's higher than 8%.
I don't know.
But
Maybe
thank you for quantifying it, James. That's always
10.
With Beverly Hills Cop, you got 3 movies right there where he's,
4.
Does he only play one?
4 movies where he's only one character.
Yeah.
He's been, according to Letterboxd, he's been in 85 movies. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So to be more than 10%, I only have to find 9 where he's played more than one role.
Okay.
I mean, we could probably do that off the top of our heads right now.
Right?
So Coming to America.
Right. Coming to America 2.
Yep.
Norbit.
Nutty Professor.
Nutty Professor. Yeah. Dr. Doolittle.
Was there a Nutty Professor 2?
There is. Yeah. It's the Clumps. Yep.
Okay.
Bowfinger.
So in Bowfinger, he's playing 2 characters because he's playing Eddie Murphy and an Eddie Murphy lookalike. I assume they're on screen at the same time.
Well, even if they're not on the screen at the same time, he's playing two characters, which is what we're talking about, right?
Bowfinger. Yep.
That's 5.
I don't know if Haunted Mansion he's playing multiple characters or
No,
Dave, Life.
I don't think
Not
so.
Life. Yeah, Life. That's Eddie Murphy, right?
Yes, there was a movie called Life. That's Eddie Murphy. I think that's it.
So I can pull 5 off the top of our heads. There might be more.
Are you
But I
looking
don't think it's
Vampire in Brooklyn.
no. What about Norbit?
Vampire in
Norbit,
Brooklyn. He
Pluto
plays
Nash.
multiple characters, or he plays his character who later turns into a vampire and changes his name. Because that's
Get
because
that.
I ran into a lot of that during my research, where I'm like, that's not 2 different characters. That's a
Sure.
character progression over the course
Yeah.
of a movie.
Let's see. Yeah. All right. All right. So yes. So that's my caveat of what my list is going to be.
Okay. Yours is just 10 Eddie Murphy performances where he plays multiple characters on screen at the same
course.
time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I'll go first then, Zach, if you want to go third, just so you can reorder.
Do it.
Yes.
And my understanding is we're going to do this a little faster than normal.
Yeah.
Or we
We don't have to.
Yeah.
I
We don't
mean,
need to dwell.
unless there's a movie that we've never talked about, then just blow through it.
Okay. So yeah, my number 10 is The Fountain, directed by Darren Aronofsky. This is a movie that takes place over 3 different timelines. I think it's present day, like Renaissance Spain, and then a future. And in all 3 of these timelines, Hugh Jackman and Rachel Weisz play a couple that are kind of existing in these timelines. And there's intersections of the 3, and there's very philosophical. But you do have Hugh Jackman and Rachel Weisz playing 3 different characters, though I don't think they're ever on screen at the same time.
Nice.
Okay.
I need to rewatch that movie. I haven't watched it in a long, long time.
I'll go. I've reordered.
Okay.
My number 10 is The Matrix Reloaded.
All right.
Agent Smith. It's actually the only time in the movie where he's playing the exact same character in multiple times. But I thought it was my least convincing because it's so digital. It's so CGI. It never feels like he's actually standing next to himself.
Do you guys remember the name of the fight, the Agent Smith fight scene in Matrix?
Oh,
The scene has a name?
The
yes,
scene
it
has
does.
a name.
Please, I cannot remember. Please do share though.
It's called the Hurly Burly fight.
The Hurly Burly.
Where is it named that? Like,
I don't know. I like all the behind the scenes stuff. They refer to it as the Hurly Burly fight, and that's like burnt into my mind. Whenever anybody talked about it back in the day when people actually talked about that movie, it was referred to as the Hurly Burly fight for some reason.
okay.
I don't know why. My number 10 is Alex Winter playing the character of Bill S. Preston, Esquire, and Evil Robot Bill
Oh yeah.
in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, and Keanu Reeves playing Ted Logan and Evil Robot Ted. So it's kind of a twofer in this one. They both play themselves, but as robots, separate characters. And
Love it.
speaking of Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, if you want to become a Patreon, there is a audio commentary for Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey that Zach and I recorded a long time ago. But if you like that movie and you want to hear us talk over it, essentially, and argue a bunch of stuff, I don't remember what we argued about. I just remember we argued a lot. Well, we were doing trivia through it, and that turned into arguments, from what I understand, from what I remember.
That doesn't sound like us, James.
Yeah, there was that, and then we did toys. We got to do another one. We should do one with Kyle.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
That was fun.
Pootie Tang would be a great commentary track.
You want to do Pootie Tang?
Yeah.
We have to do a movie that like people love.
People will.
I love that movie.
There is nothing more enjoyable than watching Pootie Tang with Zach and I, as we tell you the joke before it happens.
I can't imagine that is a good time at all.
It's the best way to watch the movie.
Oh, sounds like a nightmare. I'm fine with Pootie Tang, but I feel like we might be able to get something that's a little more appealing to more people than Pootie Tang. Although we did do Toys, which is not an appealing movie at all
Yeah,
to
that's
most people.
wow, really heavy, big hitting stuff
Yeah.
there, guys.
Yeah.
A sequel and then Toys. Yeah, we're really
All right, fine. We'll do Schindler's List commentary.
James. I feel like I have this vague memory that we argued about The Shallows during the Bill and Ted or Toys.
No, I think
Commentary.
we just argued
About
about the
Steven Seagal?
Shallows in general.
Okay,
When we
okay.
talked about the Shallows.
Okay.
Point is, if you're interested in hearing Zach and I do a commentary over Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, your first month's support on Patreon gets you access to it and Toys and a crap ton of after show episodes. So
Whew.
check it out. Link in the
Guys,
description.
we are flying through this
I
list.
know.
All right, I'll pick it up. My number 9 is Austin Powers: International Man of Mystery. In this movie, Mike Myers plays Austin Powers and Dr. Evil, and I'm pretty sure they do share at least one scene together on screen. My favorite little bit of trivia is that Dr. Evil is Mike Myers doing an impersonation of Dana Carvey doing his impression of Lorne Michaels. So it's
Really?
like, yes.
That's funny.
It's actually part of the reason why that Dana Carvey and Mike Myers don't get along is because Dana Carvey feels like he ripped off Dr. Evil from him by just doing Lorne Michaels.
That's interesting. Man, Lorne Michaels has had such an impact on the world.
On comedy, yeah.
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 Like in all its various ways, like by making certain people famous and then making other people a little bit of who they are because of their fear of him or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
How old
Desire to
is
please him.
Lorne Michaels?
I mean,
70, 30.
yeah, I would say mid 70s.
Yeah.
He is 80 years old.
Oh,
It's kind of crazy that an 80-year-old is still running the #1 sketch show on TV. That seems kind of crazy that he's...
I think he's stepping down. Do you think Seth Meyers is going to take over?
Is he stepping down? I haven't heard anything about
I think
him
there's a
stepping
plan
down.
in place.
I mean, there might be a plan in place for when he passes away or cannot function as producer, but
Yeah, I don't think he's giving it up until he absolutely has to.
yeah, because he did give it up in the 80s, right?
Yeah, and
And then
had no success and
Came-
came right back.
right, exactly, came back and kind of revived it in the late 80s. So.
Mhm.
All right, James or Zach, what is your number 9?
The Prestige. You got Ed Norton playing magicians.
No, you're thinking the wrong movie.
The Illusionist.
Wait,
You
which
got-
movie?
Ed Norton playing magicians.
I don't think there's 2 Ed Nortons in The Illusionist.
Yeah, I think
Whatever one has twins. I don't know.
So you don't even know which movies are number 9?
Isn't it Ed Norton in The Prestige?
No, it's Christian Bale.
It's Christian
Also,
Bale.
that's a huge spoiler
Have you
to The
ever
Prestige.
seen The Prestige?
It's been a while. There's 2 Christian Bales?
Yeah,
Whatever.
It's been a while.
Well, whichever one there's 2 of.
Whatever.
Whichever one
You-
there's 2 of.
Did you just put Magician movie of 2006 on your list and say, oh, well, I'll choose one of them and see which one works?
It's all the same.
No, The Illusionist is not as bad as people say it is. It just came out at the same time as The Prestige, which is arguably Nolan's greatest movie. So
It's quite the argument.
Yeah, that would be a
You're the
real
only one
argument
making
if
that
you're
argument.
claiming that. I like The Prestige, but come on. His best.
we've had this conversation how it's my favorite. One of my favorite.
Right.
maybe
You're
my
the only
favorite.
one making that
It's
argument.
one of my
is what we're
favorite
saying.
too. And even I wouldn't say it's his best.
I just no, it's a magic trick. He tells you the trick and then does the trick and you still don't believe him.
I don't think you're allowed
great.
to call a movie about about magic a magic trick.
No, but the movie is the magic trick. Like that's the point. It's okay. We're not gonna get through this list and keep digressing on every single pick we make. So all right. So Zach's number 9 is either The Prestige or The Illusionist, whichever one has Ed Norton as twins in.
Fair.
Okay. All right.
My number 9 is Emma Portner as Amanda, Marco, the evil clown, and Mr. Melancholy in a movie titled I Saw the TV Glow from last year, which I'm pretty sure you guys haven't seen, so none of that means anything to you. But if you've seen the movie, then you know what I'm talking about.
I watched like the first 15 minutes, and it's like they like the weird show together, and it just didn't grab me.
You should keep going. It's a very Lynchian kind of movie where like you kind of have to commit to it, but as long as you commit to it, eventually it all comes together. But it's a weird movie that is non-traditional, I would say, and gets more and more non-traditional as you go. I think though, Zach, if you ever revisit it and watch it full through, you will like it because it is very Lynchian and has.
All right, maybe I'll watch the second 15 minutes.
How about you sit down and commit to watching it until you like it, which I think will happen about half an hour in.
But then can I turn it off after I start liking it?
No, you will happily continue at that point.
So I have to finish it whether I like it or not.
I'm saying you won't have to do anything because you'll start liking it. You just have to give it enough time to get you there.
Are you arguing, Zach, that if you start a movie and it doesn't grab you in the first
15
30
minutes?
to 45 minutes, so it's okay to turn it off?
He's saying
is that what you're saying?
15 minutes. Not even
No,
45 minutes.
I'm not advocating any of this. I am relating what happened in reality.
Yeah, but you seem to be okay with your decision to watch the first 15. Be like, it didn't grab me, and move on from it. So
no, I was crying in the shower afterwards.
that you stooped to that level.
I will tell you, of all the movies that we talked about last year, the one that I regret not being able to talk with you guys about the most is I Saw the TV Glow. It's one of those movies where by the end of it, you'll be like, there was just so much interesting about that.
All right.
That it needs to be talked about. We just never got there. So
all right.
I haven't been.
Well, guys, I think we need to slow down a little bit. We are going through these movies too fast.
Okay. Can we take an ad break?
No.
All right.
No, we don't do those.
Back to me, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
You're
My
right.
number 8 is a 1940 movie directed by Charlie Chaplin called The Great Dictator. This is a satire of Hitler, which is crazy that this movie was made in 1940 while Hitler was in power. We already knew he was a bad dude, didn't know all the bad things, but Charlie Chaplin seemed to know enough already to make a movie satirizing Hitler and the Nazi regime. And in this case, Chaplin plays both the Hitler-like character and a poor Jewish immigrant who is also used as a double because he looks exactly like the main Führer. It is a great movie, one of my favorite Chaplin movies. I'm not
Hitler
sure
ever saw it? Do you think Hitler ever saw it?
Yeah, I do.
Nice.
In his bunker. He never admitted it to anyone. He got on actually probably not because there wasn't like VHS or easy ways to get movies around. So.
All right. My number 8 is Sinners.
Nice. Which we just talked
it
about.
would be higher on the list for like them really selling the two characters thing. Had the cigarette trade off just been a little bit smoother. That was the only thing keeping it down to number 8.
Zach, I want you to film someday a shot of you pass a cigarette to yourself, and I want to be like, wow, I thought you had a twin. That's so natural.
I don't think I could do that well.
And the velocity to which you pass that cigarette.
No, I think I would do it very poorly.
Okay.
My number 8 is Walt Flanagan as the woolen cap smoker, the Eggman, the offended customer, and the cat admiring bitter customer in 1994's Clerks. So a friend of Kevin Smith's, he only had a couple guys that he could grab for like these overnight shoots when he was making his first movie on a shoestring budget. One of them was his friend Walt Flanagan. And so Walt Flanagan plays 4 different customers in that movie. And if you're paying attention, it'll be very obvious that it's the same guy over and over. But if you're not paying attention, they changed his character, both the way he acts and the angle in which they're filming him, just enough that it's a little hard to catch that it's the same guy over and over. Walt Flanagan, integral part of Clerks.
A true Renaissance man.
Mm-hmm. Also, the only movie he was ever in.
But he did it 4 times, so
right.
He peaked right there.
Yep. Go ahead.
My number 7, 2002 movie, not a 1999 movie that I couldn't guess when James and I played a game a while ago, called Adaptation, period. It's a Spike Jonze movie. This is written by Charlie Kaufman, and it's about him trying to adapt the book The Orchid Thief. And in this movie, he writes himself a twin brother, both played by Nicolas Cage, Charlie Kaufman, and Donald Kaufman. And Nicolas Cage is playing the real character and this fictional twin brother, and have very different approaches to how they want to adapt to this book. And I would say there's a fair amount of double Nicolas Cage on screen in this movie.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Good choice. My number 7 is There Will Be Blood, which originally on the original order was my number 1 because it's my favorite movie on my list. But you got Paul Dano. He plays him and his brother. And I mean, it's fine. I'm not even sure if he has a brother. You know, it's a little ambiguous to me if there really is a brother or not, or if he just says there is. I don't know.
I think there is, but I saw this in my research and I didn't remember that element of the movie at all.
Yeah. It's got a brother.
All right. My number 7, Jack Nicholson. Played 2 roles in a movie called Mars Attacks in 1996. He was the president and also the, I think, oil baron in the movie.
Oh, he was.
Yeah. And he was great. I like that movie a lot. And I like Jack Nicholson's performance in it. The whole movie is very over the top and heightened, and Jack Nicholson in both roles is no different, for sure. My number 7.
My number 6 is a 2019 horror movie directed by Jordan Peele called Us. In this movie, the characters played by Lupita Nyong'o and Winston Duke. Their family gets visited by a group of doppelgangers, also played by Lupita Nyong'o and Winston Duke. I'm looking at the cast list. Most people in this movie play 2 different roles because the whole idea is there's sort of this doppelganger society. It's complicated. But Lupita plays it very well. It's very sinister, and it's very clear which character is which. She's making big choices on her doppelganger choice, and it's a good movie.
It helps that her doppelganger is wearing a red jumpsuit through the whole movie, too.
Well, all the doppelgangers are wearing red jumpsuits.
Sure.
So, yeah.
But as far as distinguishing them.
Well, and the voice, too. If you remember, if you remember, the doppelganger's voice is very raspy.
Yeah.
So you know who you're seeing at all times, but it's still a great performance from her.
Agreed.
That's why my number 6 is Us.
Nice.
Awesome.
My number 6 is not Us. It's a performance from a recent movie, Saturday Night, which, speaking of Saturday Night Live, is supposedly inspired by the first season of Saturday Night Live.
No, heavily inspired.
It's not even inspired. Well, they're like trying to portray the vibe of the first night. There's, from what I understand, very little truth in what that movie presents as far as what the first night of Saturday Night Live was. It's like a conglomerate of stories from the early years smashed into that movie.
The fact that it all happened in like 1 hour is not true, but so many of the plot things in that movie happened. They just happened over the course of a season.
Right, exactly. Anyway, in that movie, Nicholas Braun plays Andy Kaufman and Jim Henson, which are kind of high points for the movie for me as far as characters go. Like the Jim Henson that they show in that movie, if you didn't know, Jim Henson was a Saturday Night Live cast member, right? In season 1?
I
just
learned
special
that
guest.
very recently.
Or was it just the first episode?
Yeah, just he was there with the puppets.
For the first episode or for the first season?
He was there the first episode, but he wasn't a cast member.
Okay. Regardless, he's in the movie. Jim Henson's in the movie, and so is Andy Kaufman, and it's played by the same guy. And when I watched the movie, did not know that, until I researched this list, and then I was like, "Oh, that's crazy." Jim Henson was like one of my favorite characters in that movie, and the Andy Kaufman was fine, but I always compare it to Jim Carrey's Andy Kaufman, so it's a little hard. He was good in that role too, and same guy, Nicholas Braun. My number 6.
All right. My number 5 is a childhood favorite of mine. It is 1964's Mary Poppins with Julie Andrews as Mary Poppins. Your other main character is Dick Van Dyke, who plays Bert, the chimney sweep, but he also plays Mr. Dawes Sr., who owns the bank. He only has one scene as Mr. Dawes Sr., and Bert's not in it also. So it's just, Dick Van Dyke playing two different characters. But he does do his whole routine where he falls over and acts like a very old man. I really like that in Mary Poppins Returns, they cast Dick Van Dyke again as Mr. Dawes Sr., but there's no makeup needed. He was just now an old guy. So, or a character very similar to. And then he does a dance in Mary Poppins Returns. And the director said we gave him like because he's an old guy. He's like in his 90s. We gave him 3 different dances, a simple, a medium, and a challenging one. And the one that's on screen is the challenging dance. So Dick Van Dyke, what a guy.
Have you guys seen that Coldplay Dick Van Dyke video?
No.
Oh, it's so good. Like Coldplay had a new song, and instead of making a music video, they made like a 8 to 12 minute interview / music video where they're interviewing Dick Van Dyke about his legacy and his history in film and like just his thoughts on life as a guy who's like lived a lot of it.
Yeah.
And it's really good. And I don't really even particularly love Coldplay, but in that context of like Coldplay framing their song around something I did care about, totally worked for me. And whoever edited it and interviewed him did a bang up job on that. So check it out.
Nice. I will check that out. I'm a big fan of Dick Van Dyke.
Speaking of that, my number 5, am I next?
Oh, no.
No, I believe
my number
Zach's
5,
next,
I
but
believe
you don't
already
call
has been mentioned, is Adaptation
Nice.
with Nicolas Cage.
My number 5, Sinners, already mentioned. Kyle?
My number 4 is Kind Hearts and Coronets. This is a 1949 movie starring Alec Guinness and Alec Guinness and Alec Guinness and Alec Guinness. He plays a whole family in this movie, both men and women. And the whole idea is there is another man played by Dennis Price who is lost out on inheritance, and his only way to get the inheritance is to kill off a rival family that's all played by Alec Guinness. Most of the movie is Alec Guinness playing one character at a time, but there is a couple shots where they do like a family picture all together, and it's 8 or 9 Alec Guinnesses on screen all moving together. And for 1949, it's pretty impressive how they made that happen.
Yeah, well, my number 4 is very impressive. Back to the Future 2. There's a couple things going on here, but specifically the Biff, old Biff and young Biff. There's this one shot where he's like passing the almanac to him in a car, and it's super well done. I mean, it's done better than the cigarette pass. I will say
the velocity of that almanac is incredible.
It is. I mean, they sold it, right?
Yeah,
like
they did. Yeah.
it's. I think it's perfect. I don't know how they did it. Probably a dolly, but it was good. It was great.
Nice. My number 4 is Dan Aykroyd as the judge and Bobo in the comedy classic from 1991, Nothing But Trouble. Such a great film. Easily one of the top 100 American films ever made, and a true classic. Just a shame it got robbed at the Oscars. My number 4.
My number 3 is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. In this movie, John Cleese, Graham Chapman, Eric Idle, Terry Gilliam, Terry Jones, Michael Palin, Ian, and Connie Booth. Actually, no, Connie Booth only plays one character, but the troupe plays pretty much every male character in this movie that has a speaking role is played by one of those 6 men. And they're never really on screen sharing with themselves. It's just, every scene like, oh, Michael Palin, you play him and you play him, and we'll make it all work. But it's a lot of fun.
Nice.
Yeah, I've got The Social Network as number 3.
All right.
With the Winklevoss twins.
Sure.
Which I think was done with face replacement.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so.
I think
too.
so.
It was an early it was an early like computerized camera movement with face replacement or something like that. I don't remember. My number 3 has already been mentioned. It's the movie Us.
That's a bingo.
And Lupita Nyong'o. Lots of characters, play multiple roles, but Lupita Nyong'o in that movie as the dual roles was pretty awesome. You remember there was like Oscar talk for her because of Us?
Yeah.
Did she get nominated? I don't remember if she actually got nominated, but there was talk about like maybe she might get nominated for it.
Right.
But really good.
I don't think the Oscars were ready to nominate for a horror film quite yet.
Yeah, I mean, that was 2019, so
yeah.
Was Parasite a horror movie?
I would not say it's it's definitely a genre movie.
Right. But that was like the next year. No, that year Parasite won.
Right, it was the same year.
Yeah.
But then we now have the Demi Moore movie, The Substance. Right now, our horror performances are getting Oscar nominations.
Sure. Yeah,
we made it there. All right, my number 2. I actually just switched my number 2 and my number 1. So this was my number 1 as of 5 minutes ago. Now it's my number 2, Dr. Strangelove or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. This is a dark satire by Kubrick about the sort of nuclear arms race between the United States and Russia and USSR. And in this case, Peter Sellers plays at least 3 characters. Captain Lionel Mandrake, President Muffley, and Dr. Strangelove, who's a German scientist. And I do believe they do get multiple Sellers on screen at the same time. But this really is the Peter Sellers show. He's great with all these characters.
Yeah. Yeah. He does that a lot. My number 2 is the 1998 version of The Parent Trap.
Oh, 98 version.
Yeah. And I just watched this with my kids on Friday. And they watched it for the first time. My kids asked to watch The Parent Trap with the red hair. That was the request. Because someone at school had told them about The Parent Trap with the red hair. So we watched it. This was Lindsay Lohan's first role outside of like a short film she made. And she does great in the movie. And the movie is like awesome. I mean, it really is well done. It's well crafted. It's a remake of the original from the 60s. And it's fun. It's a fun watch. And I enjoyed it a lot. And they really sell the twins. Like there's some scenes where she's standing from a door trying to get the like leader of the camp not to set off a prank in one of the cabins, and then the other Lindsay Lohan pops up behind the screen door that she's like standing in front of, and it's very it's sold very well. Like it, you would never have guessed. And what was really fun is after the movie was over, I got to tell my kids that it was really just one actress playing both roles. And then we got to watch it behind the scenes, and like they were just kind of blown away by that. So that was fun.
Nice.
The scene where Lindsay Lohan passes a cigarette to herself, great, insane.
Absolutely. Yeah. My number 2 is another bingo.
That's a bingo.
It's adaptation, period. End of sentence.
All right. My number 1's already been mentioned, but it is great. It's Back to the Future Part 2. Technically, Biff is the same character, just in different timelines that are together, but you do have Tom Wilson on screen with himself. And yeah, that scene where they're in the car together in the garage, talk about the almanac, pass the almanac back and forth, it's great. It is perfection of having two actors playing different characters interact with each other.
Can I just say something? I considered Back to the Future and left it out because that's not an actor playing multiple roles. That's
what do you mean?
The same role.
No, they're from alternate timelines. Yeah, so it's a different
he is on
person.
Screen
Same
with himself.
role. It's the same
I would
character.
say it's a better pick because it's like on screen together.
It's the same. It's the same character. It's not a different character.
No. They're alternate versions of themselves, right? So it's a different character. If there's alternates, that means they're different. Alternate means different.
They're. I mean, one is Biff Prime from 1955,
right?
And then one is a way Biff could have gone if he didn't get the almanac. So I would say they're the same character. they're the same version.
It's the same
themselves, just
character.
different paths.
It's the same character.
They are the same character, but
No.
you do get the movie magic of having an actor act with themselves on screen, and I think that is what the spirit that we're going for here.
You can't step into the same river twice, James. It's different. Time
What does
changes
that even
everything.
mean?
You can't step into the same river twice.
I'm just saying. I'm just telling you. I left it off my list because it's the same rule.
Well, you made a mistake.
I'm not saying you guys made a mistake, and I definitely didn't make a mistake here. It's the same role, same character name, same character. Might be a different circumstance. Same character.
All right. Well, Zach, what is your number one?
My number one is Parent Trap from 1961.
I am not shocked.
This movie is fantastic. It's really great. I rewatched it again last week on Friday, and it holds up so great. It's so well done, and the twinness of it with Haley Mills is great. It's super well. Like, they just seem like different people, and they're like playing, they're singing and playing guitars together at Martinelli's, and it's so iconic. It's just wonderful. I love this movie.
As a kid, I had a VHS tape of like songs from Disney movies, and the "Let's Get Together, Yeah, Yeah, Yeah" song was on that tape.
Sure.
So I've only seen that movie once or twice, but I know that song so well.
Nice.
Sure. Yeah. I enjoy that movie as well, which is why it's also my number one.
Ooh.
The Parent Trap, 1961. As somebody who grew up in a household with three sisters, this was a movie that was on constant rotation when I was a kid. So much so that I can't really remember when I found out that Haley Mills was like one actress. Like, it just was always a part of my life. And then at some point, I'm sure somebody told me that, or I found out about it, but I can't tell you when that moment was. It just was like always, or it wasn't even a part of the conversation. And then at some point I knew, but I can't pinpoint when somebody revealed that to me. It's like I absorbed the way they made the movie eventually, type of thing. But when I was a kid, I just never second guessed the idea that
James,
that
have
was
you
the
ever
same
seen The
person.
Parent Trap 2?
I have. I don't remember much of it.
I also enjoyed that one. That's where Haley Mills is grown up, and she still plays her same character as like two adult sisters,
trying to get their parents back together.
Well, and then no, they have there's like girls. I forget the relationship, but I think one's a daughter of one of the sisters, and they try to get people back together.
By swapping again, the Haley Mills characters swap, or like the younger generation swaps?
No, the Haley Mills twins are now adults, and they do not. They're the ones being
swapped
pranked. Yeah, swapped upon. Yeah,
gotcha.
The Parent Trappers, now the Parent Trappies.
And I don't think there's like legit swapping because their daughters aren't twins. Gotcha. I don't know. I'd have to revisit this movie. I just remember liking it. And Tom Skerritt, I think, is the love interest.
Do you want me to completely ruin the original 1961 Parent Trap? We may have talked about this, Zach.
I don't know if you can. Go for it.
The father in The Parent Trap, 1961.
Yeah.
Fell into a severe depression and hung himself.
Oh, what year?
The actual actor. It was not too long after the movie.
Oh,
yeah.
I wonder why he was depressed.
So now every time you watch the movie, that's all you're going to think about, because that's what happened to me.
No, but I like that guy.
I like him too.
You can also watch
Very
the movie.
sad. Go ahead, Kyle.
You can also watch the movie knowing that Kubrick wanted Haley Mills for Lolita.
Really?
And Disney said,
no way.
Oh, hell no. No way.
Was she under contract with Disney at the time? Or?
Yeah, she was under contract.
Gotcha.
Disney's like, yeah, we're not putting Haley Mills in Lolita.
James, the father in The Parent Trap died in 1997.
Oh, so he didn't do it right after.
At the age of 76.
Right, but he hung himself.
Or 75.
Are you looking at the Wikipedia article? At least tell me I was right about that. For the record, I'd happily be wrong about this if you told me I was wrong.
No, he died in a boat accident in a boat during a boat chase in a boat that he stole.
That sounds like suicide by boat.
What
to
am I
me.
thinking about then?
No, I'm joking.
Oh, that's really fun. That was.
Okay, so I was right about the circumstance, not the timeline.
Yeah.
Oh, so he did kill himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
as an old man, he had already like exceeded the life expectancy.
76 succeeds?
Oh, so you're saying it's less sad when an old person commits suicide?
Oh, for sure.
Okay. Well, okay. Just wanted to
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't agree?
He had terminal lung cancer.
We can all agree it's less sad when it's an old person, right?
Well, it's the circumstance. If it's an elderly person who has mental health struggles and kills himself, that's sad. If it's an elderly person who has terminal cancer and chooses to end their life through a physician's assisted suicide scenario, that's different.
I just mean without any details. When you hear that a 10-year-old died versus a 78-year-old, it's more sad when a 10-year-old dies. Without any other information.
I was talking specifically about suicide, and I think all suicides are sad, no matter the age of the person.
I agree that they're all sad, but it's
we're talking about
more
degrees
sad
of sadness.
with suicide or without suicide when it's a 10-year-old.
Of course.
I mean, I would say a 10-year-old dying is more tragic because it's a life cut short, but it's pretty darn tragic that when any person takes their own life, doesn't matter how
tragic.
No,
tragic
we all
is
agree that
another
they're all
way of
tragic.
saying more sad, right?
We all agree that they're tragic, but even you yourself said more tragic.
Because
a
10-year-old.
It seems like James was excusing. He's like, oh, 76 killed himself. That's not so bad. Like, it was really cavalier how you approached it.
I'm not excusing it. I don't mean to be cavalier. I'm just saying it's a fact that like most people would say it's more sad when a young person dies by any means than an older person. And I think they're right. I think I am more sad when it's a younger person. Probably just because they haven't had the opportunity to experience life.
Right. See, I think it's sad to lose that wisdom.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it's more sad. Oh, you mean the wisdom of a 78-year-old?
Yeah. What does a 10-year-old have to offer the world? I mean, come on. That's
only the rest of their life.
Yeah, but we know what we got from the 78-year-old.
Oh, so it depends on what they did in life. As far as how sad you're gonna.
How much money did they earn? How did they contribute to society? Did they help capitalism or not?
Sure. These are the important things.
Exactly.
All right. That was our quick ranking of the top 10 movies in which an actor plays multiple roles.
Oh wait, and where an actor plays. Okay, never mind. I'll get back. I'm going back to Biff. It's still multiple roles.
Yeah, plays multiple roles. If we missed something that definitely should have been on our list, let us know for sure. You can do that via email, heyguys@cinereelists.com. You could also leave a comment on one of our YouTube videos. Go check those out. Search Cinereelists on YouTube and subscribe while you listen. Support us on Patreon, patreon.com. Listen to that Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey commentary. Leave us an Apple Podcast review, 5 stars only. That would help us out a lot and would be free and easy for you if you're on an iPhone. Yes, you could also follow us on social media at Cinereelists on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. Or you could follow me on my personal Letterboxd or Blue Sky account at YoJRB.
You follow me on Twitter or Letterboxd at Shaubin.
Find me on Letterboxd at Peter SKB.
We will be back next week, likely with Thunderbolts. Asterisk, which is a part of the title, not me asterisking Thunderbolts. We'll see you guys there. Until then, keep it cinereal.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.